Good morning. So good to see you here. So tell me if you relate to this. You have a pretty good life with so much to be grateful for, and you're ready for a next level of freedom, of congruence, of confidence, of joy, of just feeling lighter and more comfortable in your own skin. Just let me know if you want that because this is what I find. I speak with so many incredible people every single week. And what I hear is, I want to feel lighter. I want to help more people. I want to put myself out there. I want to feel more confident. I want to, not shy away from taking photos with my family or my friends. I want to just be comfortable being me. And what gets in the way of that? So, here's the thing is that we talk a lot about, in our culture, we talk a lot about addictions, and our minds always default to talking about alcoholism or drug addiction. And I think a lot of us have our mind set on what it means to have an addiction. And so what I'm here to share today is what it really means to have an addiction, and to look at some of those socially acceptable addictions that might be running us, that are actually holding us back from the very things that we want. So as you listen to this today, I really want you to listen from the place of, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. I'm not here to, drill down all the things that make me wrong in order to fix what's wrong so I can be right. We're not in any of that conversation. All we're doing right now is just bringing some awareness and attention to some areas where you might be a little snagged. And then at the end, I will share with you the key to being free from that stuff. Sound good? Okay, cool. So for those of you who I don't know, I am Debbie Lichter, founder of Freedom from Food Addiction and Freedom Embodied Academy, and it is my absolute joy and pleasure and purpose to support you in living free from whatever addictions or obsessions are holding you back, so that you can truly, truly shine your light and spread that light to all the people that you are here to help. Patty, so good to have you with us. I'm glad that you could join us today. So let's dive right in. I want to talk about 5 socially acceptable addictions. And before I do that, let's just talk about what it means to even have an addiction, or what an addiction actually is. Because the way that I understand it, and this is just from, working with people around freedom from addiction for a decade, and for being on my own journey as well of getting free from my own addictions, multiple addictions, food and drugs and codependency and work and, chaos creating and control and fixing and busyness and, you name it, lots and lots of stuff, sugar and coffee. And I mean, you name it. I've had it and gotten free from it. But what are we really talking about here? So the way that I understand addiction is that addiction is anything that we do to distract or numb ourselves from an underlying discomfort or dis-ease. And that when we try to stop doing, we find that we can't. So it's anything that we do to distract or numb ourselves. So, all of a sudden now, gosh, like binging on Netflix, when you start watching Netflix and then you just can't stop, and you're just kind of like, 4 or 5 episodes later, you're like, what just happened to my whole night or my whole day or whatever? It's that kind of stuff where, okay, yeah. Or, sometimes we have that with food or with various things. I'm going to be talking about some of the ways that I really see so many of us getting stuck or getting snagged. And again, this is not to make you wrong or bad. This is just to shine the flashlight on it so we can bring some awareness and some honesty to this conversation. Because here's the thing that I notice is that when we don't bring awareness and honesty to the conversation, then we will say, oh, I just have this bad habit. I'm just being lazy. I'm disciplined. I got to have better willpower. And we have all of these explanations for it. And then we're trying to fix a problem that we don't fully understand with an incomplete solution. And we stay stuck. And so when we can look at it and we can say, maybe what I have going on is more than just a bad habit. Maybe there's an addictive pattern happening here. And instead of me feeling ashamed and hiding it more, maybe it's about getting honest about it and starting to ask questions so that I can uncover how to be free from it, so that I can move past it and truly have that experience of confidence and joy and just feeling comfortable in your own skin and feeling lighter from the inside out. Sound good? All right, so then stick around because that is what we are diving in today. Judy, I'm so honored that you are here joining us today. And Pam, it's so wonderful to have you here with us. I'm so glad that you're able to come live. And I'm so excited for those of you who are listening to the recording. So here we go. So the first, I'm going to go in order of the way that I see, you know, kind of like from the least sort of offensive to the most offensive. All right. So here we go. So number 5 is our addiction to food. So, you know, and not everybody has this one. As a recovered food addict, I will share with you that it is not just, first of all, food addiction is not just, you know, oh, people have, you know, people are overweight or obese, they must have a food addiction, and somebody who is lean or doesn't, you know, like have a, you know, isn't overweight doesn't have a food addiction. That is not how that works. You can have a food addiction and obsession regardless of your weight. And food addiction also bridges the whole range of obsessing. It's all the food thoughts, it's restricting around food, it's exercise bulimia, or it's actually purging. It's all the things that we do around that. It's also binging, and it's just the general constant thinking about food. Okay, so when talking about food addiction, that's what I'm referring to. And this is the thing, is that when you are, it's so ironic because what I find, and this is just my personal experience, and tell me if you relate to this, and if you relate to this, then maybe you just want to say food obsession in the comments so I know that you're with me on this. So the thing about having a food addiction or food obsession is that you are constantly thinking and analyzing, what should I eat, what shouldn't I eat, what can I have, what can't I have, feeling gross in your body, what are they seeing me eat, you know, what are they eating, what should I do now that I just ate that. It's a constant ticker tape of conversation that's going on in your head, in the background. And what happens is that it robs you of being present. And so, you know, you might be in a conversation with somebody and your mind goes elsewhere. You're thinking about, what should I eat? What is this person thinking about me? You're analyzing the words as they come out of your mouth, and you aren't even connected and present in that conversation. And so it is impossible to feel confident or have joy or feel comfortable in your own skin if you're never in your own body, if you're not even in the present moment. Right? If you're just up in your head spinning all the time. And that's what happens with food addiction. And so just notice, again, I'm not here to diagnose. I'm not here to do any of that stuff. I'm just here to shine the flashlight on an area that might be going on. This also, you know, doesn't mean that every single time you eat, you go into some big massive binge. But if you notice that once you start eating, you don't want to stop. You know, you intend to just have one cookie and then you end up having the whole bag. Or, you know, you just find yourself saying, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to have the sugar anymore. And then, you know, a couple days later, you're rewarding yourself for being so good for not having the sugar, and you're eating sugar again. You know, these are the kinds of things you can just start to notice. And if that one's going on for you, again, you're not wrong or bad. Just notice this is one of those socially acceptable addictions that might be holding you back, snagging you. Again, I'm going to share at the end how to, really the key to moving through this, and some action that you can take right away so that you can really empower yourself on these things. Lindsay, yay! So good to see you. And I love how Lindsay's saying hello to Pam. That's amazing. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, and this is, oh my gosh, all right. I used to be super guilty of this one. Number 2, and this is actually, well, I should say the 5, so this is number 4, right? So this is number 4 in the socially acceptable offenses, all right? Number 4 is overworking, and get this, hold on, addiction to overworking and image management. Okay. Addiction to overworking and image management. What do I mean by that? Well, the overworking is pretty obvious. And if you are someone who, hello, I can totally relate to this, working 70 hours a week. I remember running a health club, ironically, looking like the picture of health, talking about health and fitness all day long, you know, smiling, being positive, and burning the candle at both ends, being, you know, up super early, going to bed super late, working all the time. And what was behind all of that for me personally was perfectionism, And this need to not disappoint, this need to get the approval from others, the need to, get this, be liked by others, right? The need to look a certain way, to appear a certain way, so that other people didn't see what a mess I felt like inside, how I felt like I wasn't enough, never enough, never going to be enough, or too much of the wrong things, too loud, too emotional, too serious, too boring, too intense. So constantly trying to calibrate all of that, and then looking to you all to see, how am I doing? Do you like me? Are you approving of me? Like, am I doing a good job here? Because did not trust what was going on, did not trust my gut. So, I need to rely on you to tell me if I'm doing a good job or if I'm doing it right, because I feel like I'm wrong all the time. So if any of this conversation is sounding familiar, again, you're not wrong or bad. This is just shining the flashlight on one of the socially acceptable addictions, addiction to overworking. Okay, if you grew up in a family, grew up in a family where hard work was like, you were such a good person. Hard work equals being a good person. And what's that idiom or phrase or whatever, like idle hands is the devil's work, all that kind of stuff. If you kind of had all that stuff going on, if you were raised with those kinds of thoughts, then there is this, I'll get into when I get into number 3, where we're going to circle back to that idle hands one. But the idea that hard work equals being a good person, and that if you do it perfectly, then you're going to be able to be good enough. You're going to be able to be enough, to be liked, to be loved, to be important, to get the attention that you need. You get all of that, right? And so we put ourselves on this hamster wheel, and it is impossible. It is absolutely impossible for you to have any kind of authentic experience of feeling comfortable in your own skin, feeling okay, because all you're doing in that moment is you are living outside of yourself. You're living in what I call the external feedback loop. You're living based off of, okay, how do I appear? What do you think of me? And let those external circumstances, those external influences inform my internal experience. So if you ever notice yourself not wanting to be seen as a slacker, not wanting to disappoint, getting into the people-pleasing stuff, which again, I'll talk more about in the next one, these are the things, the overworking, the perfectionism. This is all indications of addiction to working or addiction to image management. So if you relate to the image management one, then just write image management. Guilty. We're getting little guilties in there. Relate, random. So glad that you were here. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yep, we are getting that. So yes, so here we are. So that is the number 4. Okay, moving deeper to the core. Let's get to number 3. And here we go with addiction to doing. Addiction to doing, addiction to being busy. It's the chaos. There's always something to do. My mind, if I'm idle, remember that idle hands thing? If I'm idle, then I should be doing something, and I'm slacking. This is this absolute, we keep ourselves on this, it was so funny. I was talking about this to my boyfriend yesterday, and he's like, because he like has like completely nailed, like he just bees all day long. He's a beer, and he gets a lot done, but he just is an absolute beer. And so in comparison, I'm the doer, he's the beer. And so he was making fun of me around this, so we can totally laugh at ourselves around this stuff. But if you relate to addiction to doing, to that feeling like there's always something to do, and here's the thing, is that there's a certain aspect of chaos. So this could also be the overbooking your calendar, or just, that feeling like you're never done, like kind of like I was talking to a client the other day, like that anxious tension that like there's always something to do. And if you're not doing it, then you're not thinking of what you should be doing. And you're kind of going through your mental checklist all day long. And even if you're in the middle of doing something, we talked earlier about not being present, you're in the middle of doing something, but your mind is also going, okay, what are the things that I'm missing? You know what I'm talking about. It's so difficult for us to be able to be present. And this is also where a lot of people pleasing stuff comes in, because you're doing for other people. So it's like, what do they need? And you're giving everything to everybody else and just pouring everything to everybody else. That was also, by the way, caught up with both my food addiction and my workaholism and image management, was like this like addiction to doing. Because if you've got those other things going on and you're like, I'm never done. I'm never done because I'm never enough. I've got to be more. I've got to do more. Okay, so what happens in this cycle is that we lose ourselves. We completely lose ourselves. We don't know who we are. And I remember talking to a client a couple months ago, and she's like, I don't even know who I am. I don't know who I am. And sometimes that happens a lot. I've been speaking to a lot of moms recently, and a lot of moms feel that experience, like everyone gets everything else. And then I just, once I've had kids and I don't even know who I am anymore. All I'm doing is doing, and I'm doing for everybody else. And I don't even know how to take time for me. I don't even know what I like anymore. So that is one of the things. And again, when I talk about socially acceptable, it's because we have it ingrained into our heads that we should derive our source of happiness by doing for others. And that if we're doing something for ourselves, we feel guilty, we feel selfish. If we're taking that time, we're like, that's wrong, And so we have all of these hangups around this stuff. And so if you have any of those things going on, I just want to validate that, first of all, this is a part of a whole different video that I'm not going to get into today, but let's just say, just time out here with the whole selfish thing, because self-care, taking care of you, putting on your own oxygen mask is the highest form of service that you could do. And, the art of being able to be and really empowering those around us to do what they need to do so that they can really step into, a more empowered place. These are really, really beautiful things. However, we're not getting into that piece right now, because you probably already have that stuff buzzing in your head of, I should be able to do it this way. And that's not what I want you. That's not the path that I want you to go down right now. All we're here to do in this moment is just to shine a flashlight on it, just to get honest about it, just say, hey, do I relate? So if you relate, just say, oh my gosh, I'm a doer, total doer right up over here. And all we are doing today is just getting honest about it and being able to be lighter about it, because this is so important. As long as we keep it hidden and in the, behind closed doors, and this is what I do, and I'm so wrong and bad, and this is what makes me not enough, or this is what makes me, not fitting in with others, and why can't others do it this way, and comparing yourself and all that stuff that we all do, and we all think that we're the one person who doesn't do it. Yeah, so when you bring that up into the surface and you're like, hey, oh my gosh, I do that too, you do that too, this is funny, I can't believe she's talking about my own experience, I don't feel alone anymore, it helps to lessen that burden and that darkness. We actually start to feel lighter. So I don't know if you're noticing, just in this conversation, ironically, even though we're talking about the stuff that might be snagging you, you might be feeling lighter right now, because it's like, oh, I don't feel so wrong and bad. This is just a thing, and I can get free from it because I'm not the only one dealing with it. Deb deals with it, and she dealt with it, and she's doing fine. All right, so if you're with me on this, just give me a little smiley face in the comments so I just know you're with me. Okay, so love all this. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, total doer. I love it, Stephanie. Yep, double doer, doer. Yep, we all get that. Okay, so that's number 3. Now we're getting closer. We are getting a little bit closer to the core, to those things that we don't really identify as being addictions, but they kind of are. So this one, addiction to control. Addiction to control. So some of you might be like, oh my gosh, I know I'm a total control freak. And some of you might be like, no, I used to be a control freak. I'm not that much anymore. Here's why I will share that we are all control freaks. Okay. Because addiction to control really is, there's a certain way each one of us is operating in our own little mental construct of how we think things should be in order for us to feel okay, in order for everything to operate the way that we think it should. And we are endlessly trying to maneuver and manage and manipulate our lives and our worlds and the lives and worlds of those around us so that it looks a certain way, so that we can feel safe, so that we can feel like we're going to get what we need. And there's just this constant thing that we're doing, whether we overtly get it or not. Here's the thing, and if you're not sure if this is you, I was just kind of laughing about this. I was laughing, well, I'll kind of bring my boyfriend up for a second, because he did this the other day and I was just laughing, and then I did it like just a couple days ago too. But he was getting so irritated. We were going for this long walk, and for those of you who have spent any time in Europe, or for those of you on the East Coast, like on the West Coast, we seem to kind of be in our own world around this stuff. But how there's like one direction to walk in each direction. So like if you're in America, at least, then you would like walk on the right side and then let the passing traffic move on the left side, right? So you get what I'm saying. There's like a certain side to walk on the street. He was getting really, really upset because people weren't following those rules. He was getting upset at me because I was like wafting over to the left side and I should have been on the right side. And I just started laughing because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so indicative of how offended we get when people don't do it the way that we think they should. And, it's like so offensive to us. We get upset, we get our feelings hurt, and then, so I'm kind of laughing at him. And then the other day, I like chopped a bunch of veggies, left them on the counter all day long. And at the end of the day, he was cleaning the kitchen, and he threw out everything. He thought I didn't want it. He thought that it was just like stuff that was just like leftover and like surely wouldn't want it because it was on the counter, and he threw away all this amazing fresh chopped vegetables that I had like spent all this time to, and I freaked out. I'm like, what are you doing? What, how could you even think that would be something I'd want to throw away? Like, look at all those leafy greens. Like, I can't believe it. It just boggled my mind. So again, we get to laugh at ourselves. I know these are kind of small, little, like insignificant examples, but I use them to just shine the flashlight on this addiction to control. And if you have, if you want to just think about the last time you got irritated with someone at work for not doing it the way you thought they should, you got irritated with someone in your family, you got irritated with another driver. You're like, what are you doing? Don't you know how to do? We all kind of have it. But here's the thing, is because I'm so passionate about this, and I hope that if you feel like you've got this addiction to controlling thing, just put controller, again, like no wrong or bad. We get to laugh at ourselves around this stuff. But here's the thing, because I hear people say all the time, I want to get in control. Like, we feel like confidence is actually, to get in control will have us feeling more confident. It doesn't work that way. Here's why. When we try to gain control, we create more rigidity and rules. We need things to be a certain way for us to be okay. We need for other people to do things a certain way for us to be okay. We need like to feel a certain way to be okay. And so what it does is that it makes our world smaller and more rigid, and it makes things more complex, because rules make things more complex. And so all of a sudden now, we're not just in that kind of like, hey, I'm just kind of like be able to relax and take it easy and exhale. I know that whatever's going on, whatever happens, I'm okay no matter what deep inside of me. Like, that doesn't happen with control. With control, we're like, we get very attached. Things need to be a certain way. We get attached to a certain outcome, and we also get attached to believing that we know the outcome that is going to benefit the most amount of people, the most amount of the time. And we want to like convey that because we really believe that we're right. So again, if this is something that you notice going on for you, just laugh, put controller in the comments. And this thing right here is, it's actually robbing us of that true, authentic experience of confidence. That confidence of, I know I'm going to be okay no matter what. I know that whatever it looks like out here, it's going to be all right. I know that what those other, and I'm not talking about that kind of like condescending, righteous, like, oh, they don't know what they're doing and I'm just going to love them anyway because that's the right thing to do. I'm not talking about that. Don't go there. That's spiritual bypass. That's a whole different conversation and a whole different video. Right now, we are just shining the flashlight on this addiction to control and having a look at, hey, do I relate to that in any way? And is that possibly snagging me? Because here's the other piece too, is that control will get you pretty far in life. And if you're listening to this video right now, you've gotten pretty far in life, okay? But here's the thing, is that control will get you like 80% of the way there, and then it'll block you from freedom. It'll block you from true freedom. You cannot control your way to freedom. Just like you can't fix your way to freedom, you can't control your way to freedom. Those two things are not living in the same paradigm. Again, that is part of a different video for a different day, but I will just share that piece so that you know that if you're recognizing this and you're recognizing some of those control patterns, just know, and if it feels kind of scary, because a lot of times we go for the control because we have a fear of being out of control. I know with the food stuff, I felt constantly out of control, so I was constantly trying to get in control. I get all of that. The opposite of out of control is not control. The opposite of out of control is trust. The opposite of out of control is trust. Again, that is a conversation for a different day, but I will just leave that nugget with you as we move into the number one slot here of our addictions. That is something that I bet nobody else is talking about. And this is something that we all have, okay? We all have it. And this is our addiction to our own identity and our own thoughts. Okay, addiction to your identity and your own thoughts. So we talked a little bit in the last one about like, I have this I have this vision of like how I see the world and how things should be in the world and whatever. But here's the thing, is that we are so living in the mental construct that creates our own current paradigm that we have this absolute addiction to what we think we know, to how we think things are, to what we think we need, to how we think it is. We cannot help but look at the world through our own biased lens. We just do. I had a mentor who said to me once, well, you don't know you're living in delusions because they're just your reality. You don't even know they're delusions. And a friend said to me once, a fish doesn't know that it's wet. Like we can't see we don't have that, that we're just in it. We're just in it. And for us, this is our reality. And we wake up and we're thinking our thoughts, and it doesn't even occur to us that we're addicted to our own way of thinking. Unless you kind of get in a conversation like this and it's like, well, hang on a second. I think that rings true because it's my constant thinking that's going on this ticker tape that keeps on defining and redefining who I am and what is possible and what I know. And that keeps me living in the same situation that I'm living in. And yet I want freedom. I want a new experience. I want a new level of confidence. I want a new level of joy. I want to be able to put myself out there. I want to be able to feel better about myself. I want to be the best me. These are the things that we want, and yet we are trying to use the same mental construct that lives in the current paradigm that we're in. We're using our own thoughts to try and launch us into that, and we won't ever get there from that. You can't use your current thinking to think your way into a new state. You've got to learn new tools. And this is why this is the stuff that I just love to help people with, because we're all on this path. I was speaking with a woman last night and she's like, oh, I feel like I'm so behind. I said, you can't be behind, because each one of us, wherever we are in life, whatever life is presenting us in this moment is either an access point or a launching pad for whatever is next for us. There's no comparison of like, oh, they've really got it. Like, no, no, no. They're in their own version of these conversations. It just looks slightly different. And so they're meeting their access point. They're at their upper limit. They're at their threshold, and it looks slightly different, but they're still in it. They're still in it. And so you get to be at your threshold. And when you find yourself in a reoccurring pattern, a sabotage pattern, or you're getting yourself snagged by these things, instead of saying, oh, well, that's just me, and I'm always like this, and I'm never going to get this, and there's something wrong with me, and I'm broken, and blah, blah, blah. Instead of doing that, you can say, oh my gosh, I am bumping up against this threshold right now. And it's time for me to launch into a new place, into a new way of being. And all I need are those next level tools to help me get there. And so that's what I want to shift into right now. So we've talked about these 5 socially acceptable addictions that, and the number 5 is like, I mean, talk about like the number 1 way to not feel confident and not feel comfortable in your skin is to constantly be up in your head telling yourself that you are not worthy, that you can't do it, that you're never enough, right? That other people are getting this, that somehow you missed that, you know, that day in school where everybody else got the rule book of life and you missed it that day, and you're kind of wafting around like, I don't get it. Like, how did I just don't fit with any of these things. I can smile and I can play along and I can do the things, but I'm going through the motions. And here I am in my own little island. Guess what? We all feel like we're in our own little island. So what I want to shift in with you right now, if you're still with me, if you're with me, just say, I'm with you, Deb. I'm with you. And if I'm Rand, awesome. Yes, thank you so much for your comments. Absolutely. Yes. And for those of us who are really, really ready to get honest, we're like, yep, check, 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 check. Yep, I'm all 5 of these things. I can relate to all 5 of these things. And this actually takes a tremendous amount of self-love. This does not mean that you are being punitive, that you're being condemning. This is actually an access point of freedom, because here's the thing. The key to being free from these things is all about embodying the solution, not the problem. So when I was just getting quiet this morning and I was just, you know, asking to be guided on the transmission that wanted to come through today, what I heard was that piece was embody the solution, not the problem. And that's exactly it. See, here today, I can talk about addiction all day long. I could talk about the word addict, the word addiction. When it has a snag for us, when that word snags us, it's because it's got a certain kind of hold on us, which means that we are actually giving it a lot of power. Here's the thing. When we bring this stuff up to the surface and we look at it, and then we actually gain the tools to get into the solution around these things, they lose their power. It just disintegrates. It just completely loses it. And so like today I feel so free talking about this stuff, and I feel light and free and joyous and totally comfortable in my own skin. And that's the stuff that I want you to have too. And so, you know, I would love to support you around just embodying the solution. If that's something that you are interested in, I know some of you listening today are already working with me. And, you know, for those of you who aren't, I want to actually give you a couple of opportunities that will allow you to start going deeper into what it means to embody the solution. So the first thing is if you're not already coming to my free monthly gatherings, and here's the thing, they happen locally in San Diego, but they are actually getting live streamed because I have requests from people all over who are asking to be able to, you know, access that to live stream. So you can live stream into these monthly gatherings. I'm sorry guys, right now they are just for women. But if you are a guy and you're wanting some support, there's another option for you. So stick around for a moment. But these monthly gatherings, I call them freedom talks because freedom talks, and they are talks, they're teachings, and I do teachings that come from the Freedom Embodied Academy. They are free, and it really gives us an opportunity to come together in community, to get honest, to hear other people share, other women share, to get into an intimate setting where you can be seen and heard and know that you're not alone, and really, demystify a lot of this stuff, and also just get that next level of what freedom really is for you. Because I speak with a lot of people, they're like, yeah, well, I don't do that, those I'm not, drinking the way that I used to, or I'm not using this the way that I used to, whatever. But, I'm really finding myself getting snagged with, like overdoing or people pleasing or image management or food or, one of these other things, or I'm a total control freak. I'm noticing this stuff and I'm ready for my next level of freedom. And so these gatherings and these talks are really for any woman who is on the path of living free from any addiction or obsession, who wants to be in a growing sisterhood of other women who are on that path. So if that is something that you're like, yeah, that sounds super interesting to me, I want to know more about that, I will leave a link in the comments. But you can also grab yourself a ticket, and you can grab a ticket. I recommend you grab a ticket even if you are live streaming, because I'm connected with every single person who is signing up for these to really connect and dial in with you. So you actually get some one-on-one time with me on a call. Go to tinyurl, that's tinyurl.com/freedom talks. tinyurl.com/freedom talks. Whether you are interested in coming to the live San Diego gatherings or you want to live stream in, grab yourself a ticket and come and be a part of that. It is the fourth Sunday of every month. So you can just, look, I've got all the dates in there for this whole year. You can sign up for all the ones that you want to sign up for. Would love to have you. So that's the first thing. And I do talks all about embodying the solution from any addiction that you're struggling with, and how to really move into that deeper place of freedom and joy and confidence and feeling lighter from the inside out. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, if you are a guy or if you're just really wanting some immediate support, then let's talk, because I do work with folks one-on-one. Right now we are, the Freedom Embodied Academy is totally full, so we're not accepting anyone into the program right now, but I am available for one-on-one, and it would be my absolute honor to go deep with those of you who are really ready for that. So feel free to book a 15-minute slot with me, and let's just connect. And I'm happy to share and help you to get clarity on your next steps, whether working with me is part of that or not. Not attached at all. You can go to getsupport.today and just grab a spot on my calendar. Would absolutely love to connect with you. So here we are. So 5 socially acceptable addictions. It's been such an honor to be here with you today. I am so just acknowledging those of you who showed up live, and those of you who are listening to the recording who are like raising your hand saying, yep, I relate to that, because the honesty to be able to share that honestly is it's part of the foundation. It's part of you accessing that embodied solution. And so awesome for you, super acknowledging you. Loved being here with you. If you feel like this video could support other people, please share it, please pay it forward, and I'll connect more with you next time. Bye for now. Mwah.